And now, for the week of February 20th, Adobe Photoshop TV is on the air.
Welcome to Adobe Photoshop TV from the National Association of Photoshop Professionals. And here's your hosts, the Photoshop guys, Scott Kelby, Dave Cross, and Matt Klaskowski.
All right, everybody, welcome to another lascivious episode of Adobe Photoshop TV. We're coming to you, broadcasting once again, coming to you from NAP's headquarters where they produce Photoshop User Magazine.
Yes, sir, and this week's episode is brought to you by Wacom, makers of the widescreen tablet. Check it out at wacom.com.
We're also brought to you by Peach Pit Press Books. You can go to peachpit.com for more information on the fine books.
And we have a brand new sponsor this week. We're very proud to welcome CDW as one of the sponsors of the show. So check them out for all of your good needs, your goodies, your Photoshop-related goodies, CDW.com. Well, welcome, everybody. My name is Scott Kelby, and joining me once again, the other Photoshop guys, Mr. Matt Klaskowski.
Welcome back, everybody.
Matt Klaskowski, and of course, the multinational Dave Cross, representing the great country of Canada, our friends across the border.
Hello.
Welcome, everybody. We have packed this show full of so much wholesome goodness, I can't even tell you. We've got tips, tutorials. We've also got a special guest today because I want to show you what this week's prizes are going to be. But to do that, we're going to bring on, please welcome, Melinda Gotelli. Yay! Now, if you're wondering why you don't read that name, does not ring a bell. It would ring a bell if you bought advertising in Photoshop User.
Come on!
If you bought advertising in Photoshop User Magazine, because that's what Melinda does. She's been here since the very beginning as our advertising sales rep. She's out of our California office, so she's only in town this week, and that means we had to make her come on the show.
It's just a requirement.
But Melinda always brings good stuff. And you know what? What Melinda brought was, believe it or not, the Adobe coffee mug.
Amazing.
But there's other stuff in here that we'll talk about later. So thank you, Melinda. Take this back because we can't reveal all of the goodness. Melinda Gotelli, everyone, from our West Coast contingent. In town, just hanging out. Okay. Hey, we got a lot of stuff to cover. Let's get right to it. Mr. Klaskowski, you brought a tip for us today.
I do have a tip. I'm going to show you how to take, if you've got a lot of photos that you scan into your computer, and you always try to position them right on the scanner, well, that takes time. You don't want to worry about it.
I hate time.
What you do is you just put them on the scanner any way you want. Just throw a bunch of photos on there, scan them in, and I'm going to show you right here how you can crop and straighten those photos right inside Photoshop. Where's my pen?
I'm sorry, I didn't know if you
can't do it without the pen.
All right,
okay.
Go for it.
So we start off with a picture of a lot of scanned photos. Now you're going to go under the File menu, and you're going to go down to Automate. And this is actually an automated feature in Photoshop. It does all the work for you. Before we do that, let me just make a little mention of a tip here. See how I've got all the photos open? What you want to make sure you do is it doesn't matter if they're straight or not, but you do want to make sure that you've got at least about 1/8 of an inch of space between each photo. So you don't have to put them straight on the scanner. Just make sure there's enough space in there. All right, so like I said, you go under the File menu, go down to Automate, and then go to what's called Crop and Straighten Photos. And you're going to see Photoshop pretty much do all the work for you here. It all happens pretty quick. And in the end, you're left with a bunch of separate files that all have the photos that you scanned in.
It's Photoshop magic.
And notice not only, yes, it is magic, but notice not only did it crop the photos, but it actually straightened them. If you look back here, you can see this photo's a little bit crooked, this one's a little bit crooked up here, and it actually took care of straightening the photos for you. All right, so the last thing you might notice is that some of the photos might be rotated the wrong way. It's an easy fix. Just go into the Image menu, go down to Rotate Canvas, and 90 degrees clockwise or counterclockwise will take care of fixing the photo for you. Now, got to give credit where credit's due. Many thanks to Deke McClelland in Photoshop User Magazine. He actually did a column in his Deke Space column on using this automation. So just stealing it from Deke, but thank you for the tutorial, and you can find out more like it inside Photoshop User Magazine.
Well, thank you, Mr. Klaskowski. That tip really was good.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm making you wait for it. All right. Hey, speaking of Mr. Klaskowski, he has a brand new book that is coming out, right?
I do.
He just finished a book called Photoshop Speed Clinic. And the whole book is about being faster and automating Photoshop, using the scripting, the automation, every trick in the book to make you faster. But I'll tell you what my favorite part is. He did something very cool because I saw the layout. On the bottom of every page, he has a little tip on every page that says, like, Turbo Boost, right?
Yeah.
Turbo Boost. and he put a little tip in there, like just kind of give you a little tip besides the automation and speed. So very, very cool book. It should be out in a few weeks, right? He already wrote it. He's done writing it. It's in production.
Going to the printer any day.
Going to the printer any day now. So congratulations. Go check it out. You can pre-order it on Amazon.com or DNN.com or any .com that sells books. It's called Photoshop Speed Clinic by Matt Kloskowski. This guy wrote the book. Okay.
I did. All right. So that's my first tutorial. I think now Mr. Scott Kelby has a tutorial for us.
Excellent. I've got one for you on creating glints. And if you don't know what glints are, well, they're these things I'm about to show you right here.
What the heck's a glint?
Where's the pen?
Pen. Here's the pen.
All right. First, we're going to open an image of my brand new baby daughter, just 10 days old, Kira Nicole Kelby. Here she is right here. By the way, this has nothing to do with the tip whatsoever. I just want to show you a picture of my daughter. Okay, now. Okay, here we go.
That was subtle, Scott.
I know, that was kind of subtle. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to add glints. And what those are these little, I don't even know how to explain them, so I'm just going to show you what they are. And then you go, oh, those things. We're going to start by bringing up the layers palette. And we're going to add a brand new empty layer. So let's do that. All right, now we're going to go grab the brush tool over here. Set your foreground color to white, as we have right here. And then we're going to go to the brushes palette right here. Now, the brush that we need actually isn't in the default set of brushes. So go to this little pop-down menu right here. Let's just zoom in on that so you can see. There we go. And we're going to scroll all the way down, keep scrolling and scrolling until we come to, there they are, assorted brushes right here. And we're going to load that set of brushes. So load the assorted brushes and click on the thing that says OK. Because we're going to replace those brushes with the assorted brushes. And the brush I want you to look at is right here, number 48. That's the start of our glint. We're going to use two brushes for this. Now that brush isn't big enough, so we're going to make it a little bit bigger. Just grab the master diameter slider there, make it a little bit bigger. And we're going to go in here now, and we're just going to click in a few spots. Let me just move this off screen for a second. We're just going to click once. We're going to click once maybe like right here, maybe right there, over here, maybe over here, and we'll drop one right here. It's got a very bling bling look to it. All right, now we're going to go and now add the second part of this. We're going to go back to the brushes. And by the way, never hesitate to load these cool brushes because you're always just one click away from getting back to the default brushes. Just go to Reset Brushes, as you see right here. Then click the OK button and it replaces it with the default brushes. Now we're going to grab this brush right here, number 35 pixel brush. And you're just going to click in the center of each one like this. Pow. It helps if you make that sound, by the way. Pow. There we go. And there you have instant little glints. Now, we're doing it here on a logo, but of course you could add it to the edge of a wine glass or the bumper of a car, any place that you want to have that kind of a bling bling look that you see right there. And although that tip works exactly the same with a regular mouse, if you are using a Wacom pen and tablet, you can kind of take advantage of the pressure sensitivity. The harder you press, the more blingy the glint gets. So for extra bling, for what we call bling bling, double bling. Mr. Cross, you brought a tip with you today.
I do. I have actually a little tutorial on creating a cool effect for a photo, but I'm going to make an attempt to set a world record for the number of tips contained within one tutorial.
Unbelievable.
So we'll see how that goes.
You know, Dave, we're going to count since you said that.
Okay, let's do that.
All right.
Now, as I said, what we're going to do is a little tutorial that takes a neat effect for a photo. You could also apply this same technique to text or anything else that's on a layer using another photo to create kind of a cool layer mask. But at the same time, attempting to give you as many tips as possible in one tutorial.
Now, Dave, I said we're going to count. You realize we're going to count as obnoxiously as possible.
Of course. I'm kind of counting on that, in fact. All right, so here we go. Here's our photo we're going to use, and we're going to use a keyboard shortcut, ding, to switch to our other photo that was Control-Tab, which is actually the same shortcut in both Mac and Windows. And this is the photo we're going to use as our layer mask. Now, it doesn't look all that fascinating right now, but we're going to use an interesting technique, which is called threshold. Ding! That wasn't really worthy of a ding, but thanks anyway. And what this does is it takes away all levels of shades and everything, just gives you black and white. Remembering how a layer mask works, we're going to try to get a nice happy medium between kind of black and white ideas. So we'll take a look at that later. I'm going to select all, so Command or Control A, and then copy it, and then use that same shortcut to go back to our other photo. Now, in order to be able to add a layer mask to this, it can't be the background layer. So we're going to Option or Alt double click. Okay, I thought that was worthy of a ding, but maybe not.
You know what? We're just going to have the video editor.
We'll add those in
after
after the fact. Okay. So that's, now we can add a layer mask to it, so I'll go ahead and do that. But I also want to have a layer below so I can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to hold down the Command or Control key and click on the New Layer button to make the layer go below automatically, and press Command Delete, Control Backspace to fill that with white. Now here's the main trick to this technique. If I just pasted now that information that I had copied from the threshold, it would make a new layer. So I need to be able to view the layer mask to be able to paste on it. So I hold down the Option or Alt key and click on the layer. Now I'm actually looking on the layer mask itself. So now that I paste, I get my information. But the problem is, I want to be able to see it in conjunction with the photo that I'm working on. So I need to do one of two things. I need to be able to see the layer mask, but also see my photo. So I'll just press the tilde key, which is the one just to the left of the number 1 key on the keyboard, and that gives me this kind of quick mask view. So now I can use Free Transform and kind of resize this to make sure it's big enough for what I want to do. So I'll hit Enter, and now if I go back and look at the mask, it has all these parts that are missing the information you can't see. Now that might be a little too much, so the final step I would do is press Command or Control J to duplicate that layer. Press V for the Move tool, and then as I press Shift plus, it'll go through the various blend modes, and as you'll see, that starts to have a dramatic effect on the way that the photograph looks. So you keep going until you find one that looks the way you want. I kind of like the look of that there, and then you're all set. Now, there are a couple of things that are particularly cool about that technique. First of all, you can use just about any kind of photo, including photos that you might otherwise throw away because they don't look that great, but in that threshold mode can do a great job as a mask. And secondly, if you apply that technique to type, the type is still editable and you have that kind of cool technique. So there you have it, one that you can try yourself. And now at this point, we're going to throw it over to Matt with this week's Photoshop news.
All right, before I get to the news, Dave, I gotta say, that was a lot of tips in that tutorial.
Yeah, man, there was like 3.
No, there's 4, sorry. No, it was a great tutorial, Dave. Anyway, let's get to the news here. First up, the folks over at Digital Juice have released 2 brand new volumes that they call Juice Drops. So you want to check it out at digitaljuice.com. Also, the Epson Print Academy is coming to New York on February 25th, and also on to Chicago on March 4th. So go to EpsonPrintAcademy.com to find out more information. Next up, last week we talked about Lightroom being in Beta 2. Well, Michael Reichman over at the Luminous Landscape has actually updated his Adobe Lightroom tips and tricks. So go to luminous-landscape.com and you can read more about it. You also go to Adobe Labs webpage. We'll put the link on our site, and you can download the latest beta of Lightroom. And then last, you got to check this out. If you're going to Photoshop World, they've added individual portfolio reviews. So essentially what you get is you get 4 world-class photographers. You get to sit down for an hour with them. There's 15 minutes each, and they'll actually sit down with you and review your portfolio. So you can't beat that. If you're going to Photoshop World, or if you're thinking of going to it, go check it out at photoshopworld.com. Well, that's it for the news this week. Back to you guys.
Thank you, Mr. Kloskowski. That really rolled right along there. Hey, I'm very honored to introduce you our special guest today. This is Felix Nelson. Felix Nelson?
I am Felix Nelson.
He's Felix Nelson. Felix Nelson is the creative director for Photoshop User Magazine and for NAP as a whole. And Felix was nice enough to come here today. He flew in while he actually walked from his desk, which is
and it was quite a long walk.
There is Felix's. You can't quite see it, but see the red office? That's Dave's, and his is down there. Anyway, but we've been trying to get Felix on the show for quite some time. Felix co-authors the Down Dirty Tricks column in Photoshop User with me, and he co-wrote the Photoshop Killer Tips book with me. And Felix is a very busy guy, and every time I ask him to be on, he's like, "Oh, I can't do it this week because we're working on the magazine. I can't do it this week. Blah blah blah. Who cares?" Yeah. So he's here now, and Felix is doing a tip. This actually was a tip you did in the magazine,
right? In the last issue of Photoshop User, it was called the weather beaten technique. It's basically how to take a new sign, put it on an old building, make it look like it's been there forever.
Unbelievable. Let's see it.
Here we go.
Here we go.
Okay, we're going to start with this image of a broken down looking building. It's kind of old. It's actually the front of our building here.
Oh,
the inside looks really nice, but the outside is kind of ratty. Yeah, no, actually that's not it. All right, so we're going to take the sign. We have a picture of a nice brand new sign, and we're going to drop it right on here, and we're going to try and make the sign look like it's really old. So let's take this. We're just going to click and drag right into the new, or the old picture. And let's just position it right about there. I'm trying to get it right in between these planks on this old building. All right, now we're going to make a selection right in between where the planks come together, because we kind of want to make the selection right in there. Don't mind the lightning storm. We'll just keep going. Anyways, so we make a selection, and it doesn't have to be too exact. Hold down the Shift key just to get multiple selections here. And you can use that background image as a guide. And let's get a couple more right there. Now we want to make these areas in here look like there's shadows in this between these planks, but we want to soften the edges first. So we're going to press Command, Option D, PC Control Alt D, and since the keyboard is set up a little slightly different on this, let's go into the filter menu and actually go get it.
Let's try something else.
Go under Select and choose Feather. And
manual.
It is. This is ridiculous, but we'll do it anyways. Let's do a 2-pixel feather and press OK. It's just to soften the edge there. I'm going to hide that, just Command H or PC Control H, and I'm bring up the Levels dialog box, Command L or PC Control L, and we're going to move the highlight output slider towards the left. And we'll move this off the side just so you can see what's going on back there. And we're just trying to darken in those areas. Just about there works pretty well. Now we're going to deselect. Now here's where the cool part happens. We're going to take this sign, and by just changing the blend mode, we're going to drop it. It's just going to look like it's just part of that building. So we'll just go up here under the layer blend mode, and let's change it to overlay. And automatically it looks like it's really part of that building. Now we could desaturate some of the color back here because there's some areas that look like it's a little bit too vibrant. So you can either desaturate it or lower the opacity. We'll go ahead and desaturate it. Command Shift U to bring up the hue. I'm sorry. We don't want to desaturate it, the whole thing. We want to desaturate just the color. So we're going to go in here and just lower the saturation level just down a bit. We just want to make it look a little bit older. Let's pull back there so you can see it. There we go. Now the last thing we want to do, if you look real close in here, the edges still look a little sharp right along the edges of the sign. So we're going to get an eraser tool, and we're going to lower the opacity to like 40%. And let's choose a brush that's a little bit, looks a little bit more scattered. Let's go to small thumbnails, and let's get something about like that. That should do it. And what you're going to do is go right along the edges and just start erasing away parts of the sign. And you can use the background image as a guide as to where you want to erase it from. Maybe these edges, anywhere you see on the sign where you can remove chunks of it. And maybe the outside corners here so it doesn't look so pristine, so new. And right in between some of the cracks of the planks of wood there. And basically that's it. All right, well that's it. That's from our column in Photoshop User Magazine.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Nelson. How about a hand for Felix Nelson? Walk on Superstar. We'll be having Felix on again anytime we can get him to walk from over there to over here, but he's a very busy guy. Hey, now we're going to throw things over to, well, it's not going to throw things over to. It's time for Dave Cross's Trivia Challenge.
All right, let's talk a little bit about last week's contest. First, let's go over the prizes. Now, the first prize was the Dell DJ Ditty, the little MP3 music. Oh man, he's rapping again. We're gonna get hate mail again. And then, the next prize was a Photoshop World conference ticket for Miami. So if you can go to Photoshop World, you will get a full conference ticket. No travel costs, just the ticket to the conference. And then the last thing was a signed copy of Scott Kelby's Photoshop Challenge book. There we go. And we actually have a copy, so last week we mentioned it, and we said we're going to be giving away one of our first copies. This is it. This is one of our first copies, so you'll get this. So, Dave, what was last week's question?
Last week's question was, where do you find an option called finger painting? And the answer was the smudge tool. Ooh. And you have the winner's name, I do
always
believe.
the smudge tool.
It's always the smudge tool. The answer to most questions.
The winner's name is Nancy Lang from Chesapeake, Virginia. So congratulations to Nancy. You will be getting your prize in our normal time allotted of 6 to 10 weeks. All right.
Or months, depending on the postal service.
We'll talk a little bit about this week's contest right after our 60-second break.
All right, now, as we often do, speaking of Photoshop world, we always try and find some inexpensive flights coming up, and right now we got a couple for you. Cincinnati on Northwest Airlines, $225 to get to Miami.
Also, if you're flying from Richmond, Virginia, which our contest winner was just there, so she'll need a plane ticket. If you're flying from Richmond, it's $193 on American.
Right, so come join us down at Photoshop World in Miami. We'll be having a blast learning about Photoshop and also recording an episode of Photoshop TV right there live in person.
You can see it for yourself.
Come join us. Come see the madness that is our TV show. Now, this week we have our prizes. We've already mentioned the lovely Adobe cooler bag.
What's inside the cooler bag?
What's inside the cooler bag is I thought this was a plastic mug, but this is a really nice ceramic, hefty mug, and a pass to Photoshop World. Sorry, something was hearing this noise. And we also have one other great prize, Matt.
We do have another great prize. We gave away one of these last week, and we're giving away another this week, another signed copy of the Photoshop Channels book. Oh, sorry. There we go. So we got another signed copy of the Photoshop Channels book, and I got to tell you, you can buy it on Amazon.com, but it's overall, it's a great book for a beginner, for advanced. There's something for everybody inside of it. So go to Amazon.com. You can buy it off of there, and I'm telling you, there's a lot of great information in here. So check it out.
Don't be intimidated by channels. This tells you how to do everything.
And again, Scott did a great job from addressing the beginner, but also there's a ton of advanced stuff in here. So.
Very, very useful. All right, now we have a question for you for this week's contest, and we're going to show you a little button. This is not the actual size of the button that you will be seeing, but I need you to tell me where you find this button that is called Save Composition As.
Oh, I know.
Well, you can't tell. But you can tell them how to enter the contest.
Yes, you enter the contest. Now, we mentioned it last week. It's changed a little bit or changed last week, so it's the same way this week. Go to photoshoptv.com, look for the feedback link, or there's actually a contest email link. Go there, and you can fill out the contest form, send it in. Do not send your emails anymore, because they will not get entered into the contest. So do this by February 24th at 12 p.m. Eastern.
And good luck.
All right, this isn't so much a tip as I want to talk to you a little bit about Adobe Lightroom. Of course, Matt mentioned last week, and I mentioned again this week, that the new version, Beta 2, has been updated. But I've talked to a lot of people who don't really understand what the whole thing's about, or they haven't downloaded Lightroom for, I can't imagine why. So first, let me just talk to you about that. First is, Adobe Lightroom is a workflow product. It's been It's been introduced by Adobe, and the idea behind it is it's a free beta. You get to download the software. It's fully functional, and it's very, very stable. So if you're worried about, oh, I don't want to run beta software, it's very, very stable. And it's a super small download. It's like 9 megabytes. So you download the software, you test it, and you get to give your feedback, if you want to Adobe. If not, you can just use the software and enjoy it. So basically, that's the scoop. Here's the thing. The new beta has a lot of new features in it. Number one, of course, it's one of the first applications that supports the new Intel Macs. Because so far at this point, Lightroom is Macintosh only. There will be a Windows version, but for right now, it's Macintosh only. But this is kind of interesting. It's one of the first applications. Apple's own Aperture isn't quite moved over to the Intel architecture yet, but you can use Lightroom today and download it. So if you haven't downloaded it, first, you got to go download it. It's awesome. I'm using it right now to manage all my own photos, to do all my raw processing. It's just an incredible little program. And talk to anybody that's using it, and they just absolutely love it. And since it's free, and it's a quick download, so go to Adobe Labs and download it. Actually, just go to Photoshop TV and we'll have a link directly to download it. But I want to show you some of the new things. There's a couple of new features. They had a lot of tweaks and improvements. And basically, that's what this is all about. We give our feedback to Adobe. They make tweaks, changes, and improvements, and they release a new beta. So that's what they did. So I want to show you just the highlights of the new one. And it includes a fix of my #1 biggest gripe of Beta 1. So here we go. Here we are in Lightroom, and you can see it's got a really cool interface, and if you've never seen it before, it looks like this. Some of the things that they added first off is they added, besides of course the Intel support for the new Intel Macs, is they added a lot to the metadata capabilities, and they'll be able to import and export XMP sidecars and XMP data, but they also added all kinds of little presets and the ability to create your own metadata templates. So that was a big one, and now you can create your own and embed all your own copyright information, your IPTC information, all that kind of information. So they've greatly enhanced that. That was one area that really needed to be updated, and they did a great job with it. Over in the develop module, the biggest thing that was probably missing, not my biggest gripe yet, but the biggest thing that was missing was this right down here. Take a look. Cropping and straightening. So they added that in here. Let's just close this over here so you can get a little better view here. There we go. So now you can crop and straighten. There's this little crop overlay, and they did a beautiful job with this. Check out this little straightening thing. It brings up a grid, and it's just beautiful for straightening your images. Very nice, very streamlined. Plus, and this is really great, Photoshop doesn't even really have this built-in, well, Camera Raw does, but not Photoshop itself, has got these built-in pre-made crop settings for you. So they're done. And of course, you can enter your own custom one as well. Now we move on to another big thing they fixed, and that's in the slideshow department. Now, my big gripe to everybody at Adobe that would listen to me was, it's great slideshow features, but no music. Well, they actually did add it. In this one, they have now the ability to add music. It actually goes and takes your songs from your iTunes playlist, so you can choose which, yay! So you can choose which playlist you want to, choose the music, and you've got music with your slideshows. So that was huge. Those were some of the main things that were really, really important in here. They added music. They greatly expanded the metadata support. You've got metadata templates, the cropping and straightening, and there's all kinds of tweaks all over it. I mean, they've made it a lot better in many, many ways. But that's part of the magic of this whole thing. That's why this whole beta program is so important. Now, this is just the second beta release. There'll be more releases before the product finally ships. But I strongly urge you, go and check this out. This is something that you will absolutely love. Quick download, very, very stable, tons of fun. And to learn more about Lightroom, Knapp has put together a Lightroom Learning Center. Just go to photoshopuser.com and you'll see the link right to it. So that's it for my second little thing this week. I just wanted to give you a little insight into that, because if you're a photographer and you're on the Mac, this is a program you got to be checking out. All right, and again, we'll have the link directly on our blog, photoshoptv.com, to get you right to that Lightroom page at Adobe Labs.
All right, well, next let's do a little question and answer session. I'm actually going to take a question out of Dave Cross's help desk book. One of the things I'm going to say, great book, and a lot of people think that it's kind of a troubleshooting book, and it's not. It's got like 600 questions
it's a Q&A
and answers.
book.
It's a Q&A book. So I'm just going to take a question out here because there's a lot of good ones. How about, there's a good one. How do I hide the selection edges? So let's say you've got a complex selection. Maybe you're trying to brush around it, do some work inside the selection. Those edges get in the way. Just press Control or Command and the letter H, and it hides the selection for you. Now here's the trick. Don't forget to press Control or Command H again, because later on you'll be working and wonder where your selection edges are, and that's where they are. So just make sure you show them again.
Ah, that's great.
Yes.
Hey, before we,
Thank you, Dave.
At the end of every show, we like to leave you with 3 projects to do between now and next week's show. So, Dave, what's your project for the week?
Well, my project is to go to the Layers Magazine website. There's always new tutorials coming up that you can check out on various products, not just Photoshop, but the other products in the Creative Suite. And by coincidence, if you happen to go there now, you can also enter the contest to win a brand new MacBook Pro, courtesy of CDW. So, layersmagazine.com.
And there's now software that runs natively on a MacBook Pro. That's for us photographers and designers. So great. What do you have, Matt?
Also, go to photoshopnews.com, and that's one of the sites that we visit every day.
Absolutely.
Keep you up to
Great
date on
site.
all the latest Photoshop news. So it's, again, photoshopnews.com.
Yep. Say hi to Jeff Sheewey and the gang for
Hi,
us.
Jeff.
Hi, Jeff. How you doing, gang? Okay. Also, I've got a project for you. There's a brand new video podcast from our buddy Terry White. Now, Terry's is on the Creative Suite, so the whole podcast is teaching you the Creative Suite, teaching you everything from Acrobat to Photoshop to Illustrator, InDesign, everything in between. So go check it out. It's brand new. It's just on the web. It's at creativesuitetips.com. So a brand new video blog, a must check out from our buddy Terry White, one of the greatest guys in the world living today.
Yes.
All right. Hey, I want to thank our sponsors this week. I'll go first. I want to thank I was kind of looking over that way. CDW, brand new sponsors. Thank you guys very much for joining the show. Go check them out at cdw.com for all of your computing needs.
Right. Also, many thanks to Peach Pit Press at peachpit.com.
And, of course, Wacom with their wonderful tablets at wacom.com.
Guys, thanks very much. We'll see you next week for another salacious, ludicrous, lascivious
Yes, and somewhat entertaining
episode of Adobe Photoshop TV. Thanks for watching. Oh, one last thing. I don't know if you noticed, but in this episode, did you notice that Matt Kloskowski was rocking the house key? That's right. He was rocking the house key. Pointing, chops, and rocking the house key all in one segment. See you next week.
Thanks for watching Adobe Photoshop TV. See you next week.